It's Monday, June 1st, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here's some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. In what is clearly a very difficult and trying time for everyone, we'll take a look at a few ways that the tech industry is responding, including Facebook's stance on misinformation on its platforms. Also, it took an extra few days, but SpaceX and NASA succeeded in kicking off the commercial space era by sending 2 astronauts into orbit and yesterday morning connected with the ISS. We'll also be joined by our own Devin Matthews as he showcases the new Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini Pro and how it can help turn your regular camera into a webcam with a multi-switcher. And as we all grapple with processing the events that are occurring in the United States, we'll take a look at how technology can get involved with our guest, Kimberly Bryant, the CEO of Black Girls Code. All of that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. And hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. I appreciate everybody who's joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. You can join in the show as we talk about trending events and what is going on. So thank you for being here with us today. And let's start off with that and talk about some trending news. Certainly, there's a lot that's happening right now. We're going to focus on the tech industry side of things and the tech industry response to what's been going on to start off at the top. And number one, I guess, as we probably know by now, Twitter actually had some issues last week, or made some declarations as far as putting flags on the president's tweets, noting them as possible misinformation. So we saw Twitter have their response with that. Facebook, on the other side of things, decided not to do that and not to change anything or put any notifications on those statements, the exact same statements that were made on Facebook. And now we're getting a little bit of the criticism coming back, and this is including Facebook employees. So a number of high-level Facebook employees have made statements saying they disagree with Mark Zuckerberg's stance on this of being hands-off. Some of the statements were such as Jason Toft, the director of product management at Facebook, said, "I work at Facebook, and I'm not proud of how we're showing up. The majority of coworkers I've spoken to feel the same way. We are making our voice heard." You also had some other statements saying, "I'm glad to see Twitter take action. Not taking action is an action in itself." So these, again, are statements from very high-profile Facebook employees disagreeing with their CEO, Mark Zuckerberg's stance on this when it comes to flagging these notifications on their platform. Now, Zuckerberg did respond, and he has said, again, that he believes that they should not be putting any notifications on these, that they should stand as themselves, even though, as he said, and to paraphrase, "I disagree with what the statement said." He believes that they should remain as they were written, and that's kind of a big letter that he wrote out talking about some of this. He also said that he is going to be making some donations. So he said Facebook is committing an additional $10 million to groups working on racial justice. We're working with our civil rights advisors and our employees to identify organizations locally and nationally that could most effectively use this right now. He did say, "I know that $10 million can't fix this. It needs sustained long-term effort." And then he also said that they've been investing $40 million annually for several years in organizations working to overcome racial injustice. So this is, again, the statement from Mark Zuckerberg and a bit of a response to some of his own employees, but that is what's trending right now. That's what we're talking about when it comes to that, how Facebook is handling things. That was their statement. Now, we have seen a lot of other tech industry companies and CEOs respond to what has been going on. We've got some donations that YouTube has made. Google's been making statements. Apple's made statements. Tim Cook released an internal memo that talks about what they've been doing. You've also got Twitter, of course, making donations as well, and then several of them acknowledging Black Lives Matter on their platforms by either changing avatars or making notification of it. Even companies like Nike and Adidas, a lot of different companies going to there. There's YouTube showcasing what they're going to be donating to the Center for Policing Equity. And yeah, so a lot of companies responding in different ways, and that's what we're reporting on. That's what we're letting you know. We've got everything up to date at digitaltrends.com as people try to figure this out as we go through this and see what people do and what organizations do in response to what's happening. Continuing on here with trending news, we also have Google responding that they were going to be having an event, just in case you didn't know, for the launch of Android 11 Beta. So this is the new Android platform where usually this would have happened at the Google I/O conference, which would have taken place in mid-May. Clearly that was moved and everything was canceled. They were going to be having a live stream on June 3rd titled Android 11, the beta launch show. They said that they are going to delay that, and there was no date given as far as when that's going to happen. they felt that it was, again, to paraphrase their statement, that it wasn't the right time to push that out. So that is what we're looking at right now. So that's Android 11, the beta launch being delayed. And we'll have to see if other companies follow suit, how that's going to handle, how they're going to handle things. There was a rumor that the Google Pixel 4a was going to be rolled out this week as well, so we don't know if that's going to happen either. But again, that's just what we're looking at right now. As things change rapidly, it's an ever-changing world when it comes to this kind of news, but that is what's happening right now. We keep you up to date at digitaltrends.com, and you can read more about it right there. Continuing on with some other news that happened over the weekend, switching gears just a little bit, let's talk about SpaceX. Now, this launch was finally successful. It was supposed to happen last week on, I believe it was Wednesday, and then delayed a few days because of weather. And Saturday, it looked like it might not happen, but it did. And certainly a lot of people were watching this broadcast. I know a lot of people on Digital Trends platforms, so thank you for watching with us too. We are just as excited as you are when this actually took place. So the two astronauts, Bob and Doug, putting on a really incredible show of what they could do, and just the actual production value, I got to say, of this thing was pretty phenomenal of what we're seeing here, and it definitely highlights the fact that we are entering the commercial space era 100%. So SpaceX sending these two up, they connected with the International Space Station yesterday. Really fascinating information on it. We've got a lot of articles too. I do want to recommend you take a look at these at Digital Trends, just showcasing where we've come, and even the controls, just how it's all touch screens in there. It's almost entirely touch screens, and they actually do a really good job during this broadcast, and we've got clips of this you can watch, talking about how they can control everything on there. There is a simulator online that you can go onto, and on your phone or on your computer, you can actually go in and simulate docking to the International Space Station. I've crashed it every time that I've tried to do it, but that's why I'm not up there running that thing. But that is something that you can take a look at there. It's a pretty incredible accomplishment, and so at least in looking at it from that standpoint, really cool to see where they're at. Now, Bob and Doug are going to be up there for, they said, anywhere from 1 month to 3 months, so it kind of depends on a number of different factors, but they are up there right now, and they are doing frequent live streams and showcasing what goes on the International Space Station. So follow along for all of that at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on with trending news. This is a story that's coming out of South Korea that could be an indication of how the rest of the world may be going back to work, what the workplace could be like, and this includes robots, more robots. Now, this is coming from South Korea's largest telecom company, so it's Corporate Korea, and SK Telecom. So SK Telecom is the one who's putting this in, and at their locations, they are putting in robots to help remind employees to social distance. It's also reminding employees if they don't have a mask on. So they have cameras on these things, they roll around, they will take a look, and if somebody doesn't have a mask on, it'll say, hey, put your mask on. It'll also take your temperature. As you can see right there, it is taking a look there at thermal imaging to see what the temperature is of people, which temperature checking is probably going to be something we're going to see a lot of as we go forward in the workplace. But seeing a robot that's rolling around telling you what to do is one way that this could be happening. Now, it does set off alarms, speaking of the temperature side, if anyone's temperature is over 37.5 degrees Celsius, 99.5 Fahrenheit. So it'll alert them. It'll also use AI to detect gatherings. So if people gather too close together, it'll tell them to disperse. But this could be how we could be seeing things, if robots are incorporated more into this to remind people to social distance and manage that stuff. So that's something that South Korea is doing. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. And finally, for trending news here, something that a lot of people have been waiting for, and I wanted to bring this up because I know several people myself who paid into this and have been waiting a long time to get their Atari VCS. And this is the console from Atari that would be playing all of the old games. There's all kinds of different ways it would interact, but really it comes down to be, it's a retro game console with a new look and a new way that you can actually interact with it. Now, it's $390, but the idea was first unveiled in 2017, and people bought into this. That so far, 11,095 backers didn't receive their console, and what's happening is they're going to be releasing some of them, they said. So mid-June, you may get some of these consoles out there. This is what Atari is releasing, saying that they did have a backlog, they had an issue with it, but now maybe these will be out. If you've been waiting for a long time for your Atari VCS, perhaps you can get excited. Otherwise, it may be later this year, or we'll have to see. They've said a few things before, but this is an announcement about it, so that is at least a sign of hope for you Atari VCS fans. So you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time
for the product of the day. All right, our product of the day is this. It is the Germ Guardian. The Germ Guardian, which is a true HEPA filter air purifier for your home, your office, your large rooms. And here's what it does. It filters allergies or allergens, pollen, smoke, dust, pet dander, and it's got a UVC sanitizer that eliminates germs, mold, and odors. So this is something you can set up in your room. It will purify the room for you for some fresher air, because we're all, a lot of us anyway, working from home, and it might be a nice little thing, have that purified up. So it's a 4-in-1. It does include several different things. It does take care of pet dander, which is an awkward word, but pet dander. It traps allergens. It's got some different filters on it. It reduces odors. It's got a quiet mode, so it can work very quietly if you want to sleep while this thing's going. And the air filter actually lasts 6 to 8 months, according to this. So 6 to 8 months it can last. And right now it is on sale. There is a deal going on with this, and the way you get that deal is we're going to show you a link, and that link is what you're going to click to take advantage of it. So the list price is $249.99. Right now it is $140. So you can save $109. That's 44% savings right there. So if you want to take a look at that, click that link that is right below me, whatever platform you're watching on, hit subscribe, then click the link, and you can go through and take advantage of that deal and read some of the more specifics about it. But again, that is our deal. It is the Germ Guardian True HEPA Filter Air Purifier. So take advantage of that for our product of the day. All right, we've got a lot coming up here on the show today, and I'm very happy to have everybody here joining us. We're going to have Kimberly Bryant from Black Girls Code who's going to be joining us here in just a little while. Very excited about that. We've got Davin Matthews talking about some new developments in photography. But up next, we're going to showcase a video about HBO Max. You've probably seen a lot about HBO Max, but what exactly is it? How does it work? Well, that's what Caleb Dennison is going to explain to you. So that's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
So how's that Disney Plus subscription treating you? Are you feeling like you might need something different to watch yet? A little break from the Disney stuff? Or maybe you never pulled the trigger because you knew another streaming service was coming and you wanted to save your pennies. Well, whatever your situation, HBO Max is here. And whether you are already an HBO subscriber or are just thinking about becoming one, there's a few things you should know about this new streaming service. Hey, I'm Caleb Dennison, and now that HBO Max is here, you probably have some questions. What is HBO Max? How is it different than HBO Now or HBO Go? And if you already subscribe, will you get it for free? And how do you access it? I've got all the answers coming up. First, let's start with what HBO Max is and what you get with it. HBO Max is a new streaming service that will offer up everything you can watch on HBO, your Westworld, Game of Thrones, all the good original stuff dating back to Oz and The Sopranos, along with hit movies in constant rotation, and other specials. You get all that stuff you might normally subscribe to HBO for, plus a whole bunch of Warner Brothers content. And folks, there is a ton of that stuff. I obviously can't list it all off, but we're looking at over 10,000 hours of content at launch. Old school stuff like Prince of Bel-Air and Looney Tunes cartoons, the entire libraries of South Park and The West Wing, all 11 seasons of the modern Doctor Who series, plus 700 blockbuster films, including Crazy Rich Asians, A Star is Born, Aquaman, Joker, the Criterion Collection, and of course the infamous Snyder Cut of Justice League. Also, and I know some folks who are considering a subscription just for one show, I'm talking about Friends. Yes, Friends, possibly the most expensive show ever to stream online. Look, I could name drop all day long, but the fact is HBO Max is going to be the exclusive streaming home for a lot of killer content, which means that it is turning into one of the must-have channels in streaming TV, but it's going to cost you. Or is it? This leads me to how you can get HBO Max. It seems a little complicated at first, but it really isn't. First off, if you don't subscribe to HBO in any way right now, that means you don't get HBO from your cable or satellite provider. You don't get it as an add-on to other streaming services like Amazon Prime Video or Hulu. You are looking at a new subscription, and it's going to cost you $15 a month, which I know is steep. But it's the same price HBO Now subscribers have been paying for years. If you do decide to get HBO Max, you can get the standalone app on most major platforms like Chromecast, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, iOS/tvOS, Android/Android TV. Roku also supports the HBO Max app, but sadly, it is not available on Amazon Fire TV at launch. And the problem there is that HBO is demanding that viewers use the HBO Max app and not watch through an integrated platform. For instance, if you subscribe to HBO through Hulu, you watch through Hulu. But if you want to watch HBO Max extras through your Hulu subscription, you'll have to use your Hulu login credentials in the HBO Max app on whatever streaming platform you're using. Right now, the only TV-specific partner is Samsung. So if you have a Samsung Smart TV dating back to about 2016, you'll be able to get the app right on your TV. If you own a Roku TV or Sony or Hisense TV running Android TV, you can also get it right on your TV without needing a separate box of some sort. Otherwise, you will have to wait a few months before the app is available on your smart TV platform. So that covers new subscribers. But what if you already subscribe to HBO in some way? Well, chances are you are going to get HBO Max for no additional cost. HBO Now subscribers, you will simply get access to HBO Max for no added charge. No matter how you get your HBO Now access, you'll keep paying your subscription, and now you'll get all the added goodies included in HBO Max. In fact, HBO Now is kind of looking unnecessary. More on that in a minute. If you subscribe to HBO's linear live TV service through cable, satellite, YouTube TV, Hulu, or Amazon Prime Video, you will get access to HBO Max for no additional charge. And of course, AT&T customers have tons of options for getting HBO Max, as it's often included with various AT&T TV and AT&T wireless packages. Now, if you can get a subscription to HBO from your cable, satellite, or wireless service for less than the $15 add-on fee, then do that. Even if you never watch the live linear HBO channel, you'll get HBO Max included, and it'll save you money versus paying the $15 standalone fee. Okay, technically it's $14.99, but what's 12 pennies a year? So what about HBO Now and HBO Go? Well, they're looking pretty unnecessary at this point. I don't think they're going to go away right away, but HBO Max effectively replaces both services. As a reminder, HBO Go is just the online access companion to a traditional HBO subscription, whereas HBO Now is HBO access for anyone who doesn't get HBO as part of their TV package. In either case, HBO Max has everything those other services have, plus a bunch of stuff they don't have. So why keep either one of them around? Now, I know a lot of you out there are using shared passwords. I don't think anything is going to change for you. You'll still be able to access HBO Max just like you did HBO Now or HBO Go, and you can still watch on multiple screens at once. How many screens? Well, HBO isn't saying, it never has talked about its official limit, but it will let you know if it's being screened on too many devices at once. So share your passwords at your own risk. So is $15 too much to ask? Disney Plus is basically $7 a month. Netflix's most popular tier is $13 a month. HBO is clearly asking a premium here, but it was already getting $15 a month out of most folks, and now it's adding a ton of content to the mix, meaning whatever value HBO had before, it is adding a lot more value to the mix. I think it'll be interesting to see how many new subscribers HBO gets with HBO Max and how long it can hold on to them.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. Wherever you are, hit that subscribe button. You can enjoy the show here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We keep you up to date with what's going on in technology, including how you can turn your camera into a webcam. I believe that's in part what we're going to be discussing. We have our own Davin Matthews joining us right now. And Davin, I know you've got something there with you. Can you talk about what it is we're going to discuss here today?
Yeah, so that's basically it. Talking about how to turn a real camera into a webcam, or in my case right now, how to turn 3 cameras into a webcam. So I've been playing around with the new Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. Basically it's an HDMI switcher, which sounds boring, I know, but it's actually really neat. It allows you to take up to 4 HDMI sources, and that has a USB-C out, which your computer reads as a single connected webcam. So it doesn't matter if you plug in a game console or a camera or another computer, your computer will read that output as a webcam, and you can go live with that really easily.
I mean, as we see a lot of people, working from home, obviously, that's certainly something, but also trying to do more production value. This seems like that would be really valuable, but what is the demand for something like this right now?
So demand is actually very high, and I started seeing that when I was looking into a lot of the devices that do this, and they are almost all on back order. And so I talked to Blackmagic Design about that, and they said they're making these as fast as they can, and they still have yet to catch up to demand. And that's impressive when you consider that the ATEM Mini series is something that starts at $295 for the basic version. And then the version I have here, which is the Pro, goes for $595. And I can show it to you here, actually, if I just hit this cut button. So You can see I have all my inputs down below. You can have up to 2 microphones plugged into it. So one thing this would be actually very useful for is people who are hosting Zoom meetings in like a conference room, if they need to set up multiple cameras, multiple microphones, which is obviously not what I'm doing here. I'm kind of just showing off. And then you can also actually output that feed into a monitor, and you get your full set of audio levels and different screens. I mean, it's honestly, I feel like I'm directing the show right now.
I'll let Mike Solis know that. So something I wanted to ask you, with this, looking at this thing, this is actually a really cool product. And I would think a lot of people right now want to start doing more production. I want to use this thing, but what's the difference between, say, the Pro and the non-Pro version if somebody's looking to get into this?
Yeah, so I will say for most people, if you're just looking for a really cool way to get a camera to work as a webcam, and maybe you want to do a couple different angles, just stick with the non-Pro version. And honestly, at $295, it does a heck of a lot more than a lot of the other sort of like HDMI to USB adapters that you see that might already, by themselves might cost $100 to $200. So this is definitely this is the highest of the high-end devices for turning a camera into a webcam. But definitely the non-Pro version is going to have a broader appeal. I think the Pro version is really good for anybody who might need to stream without a computer. So you can actually plug this directly into Ethernet, and you have to load in your YouTube or Facebook Live key ahead of time. So I think it supports Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch natively out of the box. And then you can actually stream from this device without being connected to your computer. You can also record straight to an SSD connected to USB. So if you need to operate without a computer, it's good for that. Also, the multi-view monitor, this setup I have here, is something that you don't get with the non-Pro version. I really like this. It's super slick. Maybe you don't really need that, but it is pretty cool. Might not be worth an extra $200, but maybe.
I mean, may not need it, but like you just said, it looks cool. I mean, that's, you're producing your own show right there with that thing. Looking at it, and something I wanted to ask too, just, talking about connecting camera to this and turning your camera into webcam. One question, does it, what end does it support? Is it 1080p? What resolution? What does it support with this thing?
So it actually, it outputs 1080p. So if you are looking at this for, say, gaming, that might be a limitation, or if you are going to use it to record straight to disk, that is something you're going to have to work with. You won't get 4K if you have 4K cameras. However, you can pretty much mix and match resolutions and frame rates in terms of your inputs, and it's actually smart enough to mix those all together correctly into a unified output. So when I actually first set this up, I was thinking, oh, I forgot to set all my cameras to the same settings, and it turned out it didn't even matter. I had one on 4K, and I had another on 60 frames per second. I had another on like 30 and 1080p. It all just worked totally fine. But yeah, you do not get 4K output. So I think for a lot of gamers who could use this for streaming, which is actually very good for, they might want to first, run their console or the computer into their monitor and get a monitor with an additional HDMI out that they run into the ATEM Mini Pro.
Wow. Talking about it too, just this thing being a good way to connect that. What are some other ways though that you can connect your regular camera as a webcam?
Yeah, so there are some other options out there if you're looking for something that's just a lot simpler than this. And I think the most popular one is the Elgato Cam Link, which is basically it looks like a USB thumb drive. It has HDMI port on one end, a USB port on the other end, and you just plug your camera into that and you're good to go. Also, we're seeing a lot of camera companies right now come up with software solutions for turning their cameras into webcams. So we've seen Canon do this. We've seen Fujifilm do this just last week. And these programs right now are kind of in beta, but you can see they're developing them as quickly as they can, and they're kind of rushing them out there to the public as quickly as they can because they know that this is now actually a competitive edge to have webcam support with a DSLR or mirrorless camera.
Yeah, if you've got the cameras, I mean, why not use them for something like that? And for
Right.
G95, that's a pretty slick setup that you've got right there. I got to admit, I kind of want to get that. I know that we've got a hands-on review too at digitaltrends.com, right? That people
Yep, that's
can
up
take a
now,
look
yeah.
at. Okay, so go there, take a look at that review, and again, that thing's awesome. So the Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini, and then there's the Mini Pro that can turn your camera into a webcam. Any final thing you want to let people know about it?
Yeah, I mean, just that you may not have realized this, but I've kind of been playing Halo this whole time, so I think I'm going to get back to that.
Perfect. Excellent. There it is. See, he's showcasing it right now. Davin Matthews right here on Digital Trends Live. Thank you so much to Davin. Check out his hands-on review there at digitaltrends.com. Very, very cool. We've got a lot to talk about here on this show, but our next guest is somebody you're not going to want to miss, and it's something very important we're going to be talking about, and that is with Kimberly Bryant, who's the CEO and founder of Black Girls Code, addressing what's been going on and how the tech industry is and can respond going forward. So stick around. We'll be right back after this with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This has been a very difficult time for a lot of us in the United States and across the world as we come to grips with protests and different things that have been happening and how we all tackle that. Since we are a tech show, we wanted to focus on the tech side of things. And over this coming week, we'd like to bring you some stories and some interviews about how technology is involved and how it could possibly be part of a solution. And today, we're very excited to have with us here. We have Kimberly Bryant, the CEO and founder of Black Girls Code. Kimberly, first off, I want to say thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. I appreciate that.
One thing I want to start off with is talking about tech and diversity. This isn't a new topic. We've been talking about this for years about how there's a problem with that. But given the recent events and what is going on, what would you like to or hope to see tech companies do?
Well, that's a great question. I think one of the things that we've been really at Black Girls Code sort of challenging the industry to do for the last 9 years is to really invest in creating a more diversity amongst their companies, within their investment streams, and even more so than just more diversity, more equity. Now that we are again at this very unfortunate place in our environment and in the world where we see such blatant inequity, I think that even places even more of a spotlight on an industry such as technology or VC, where there is such a lack of diversity in terms of who's getting funded, who is in the pipeline, who is creating the technology that we're using that helps us to see what's happening around us. And I think right now more than ever is time for those companies that sell to these markets that include such a diversity of individuals actually invest in those folks to ensure that we can create a more even playing ground. So I think a lot of that is about really not just for these companies to make statements, and I think that's important, but also to put their dollars, their resources, really examine what have they done to create the unrest that we see around us.
Looking at it from that standpoint and taking those dollars and putting them into action, what are some specific initiatives or steps that you think the tech industry could do, I mean, in particular to attract young women of color?
Well, for Black Girls Code, our main focus is really to make sure that girls from underrepresented communities, so African American, Latino, Native American communities, have a seat at the table when technology is actually created. We do a series of workshops and events normally that happens throughout the year. Now, with the onslaught of COVID, we've had to switch our whole program model and really take most of what we do online and take it into virtual settings, which has been a huge transition for us. So being able to gather the resources to not only reach the girls that have participated over the last 9 years in our events and these chapters online, but now seeing our reach expanded well beyond that takes dollars, it takes resources, it takes us investing in platforms, and companies should really look at organizations like Black Girls Code and see how they can both give us their expertise as well as their dollars and support to help us reach those folks that are being disconnected.
To give some context for everybody and just a little bit more understanding and kind of a personal side, would you be able to talk through what some of the challenges are that you face in your rise to, such great success, but some of the challenges that you face for people to really understand what people go through?
Yeah, of course. So I always kind of start by telling the Black Girls Code story by telling my own personal story. I have a degree in electrical engineering with a minor in computer science, but when I was going to college to learn those skill sets, and it's been 30 years now, there weren't many people in my classrooms and even in my professor pool that were from my community. There were no women that were teaching. There were no women of color. There were no professors of color. And there were very few students of color in my discipline as well. So really being able to navigate, learning in this very, I would say, monochromatic environment that did not have much diversity, and not having a feeling of allyship was very difficult. This is 30 years ago, and that was actually a time when there was a peak of women, about 35% or so, that were getting degrees in computer science. Now that number is much lower. So now probably about 12, maybe 10% of women receive computer science bachelor's degrees, even less in terms of the graduate degree side. But women of color, that number is only 3 or 4%. For Latinas, that number is like 1 to 2%. It's almost negligible if you look at Native American women. And so when I found myself, with a daughter who was interested in going into computer science and being a game developer or going into the tech industry, in her middle school years and really developing this passion for technology, I was very concerned about how she would navigate this already difficult pathway in terms of the challenging skill set, but really being the only girl from a similar background in those environments that are often very hostile and certainly not friendly. So, one of the things that we really focus on is starting early in the pipeline. So, we create a community of girls like my daughter, like myself, so to speak, that can navigate this difficult pathway until we see a shift. So we're really feeding that funnel. We also, though, really push on this issue that we have around diversity and inclusion in the industry, because we know it's not enough for us to feed women into the funnel if they're not given an opportunity to advance, if they're not given career opportunities to move into management and leadership roles. They won't be there when our girls hit the door and when they come into those companies. We need to see women, and we need to see women of color in particular, at all leadership levels within the tech industry, so that we can actually have an opportunity to create an environment that's conducive to a positive culture for this next generation. And it even goes beyond that, though. When we look at who's creating companies, there have been many studies that show that VC dollars only go at about 1 to 2% to women of color, to that is to companies that are led by a Black or African American founder. So we're not even seeing that there are enough dollars being funneled to new founders, startup founders, to create those companies, which then creates another problem in the industry, again, not being able to have opportunities for companies and founders to create, if you will, the PayPal mafias of the future, because they're not actually being able to participate even at the VC level. There's no VC, there are very few VCs that are African American, very few African American women that are VCs or LPs. And so the industry really has an issue that's systemic in nature. And that's what we really try to advocate for in terms of a policy perspective, in terms of really driving to this conversation around how do we create an inclusive industry, full circle.
What kind of recommendations would you have to young women of color right now who want to get into the tech industry despite a lot of these barriers and issues that are going on? What advice or recommendations would you have for someone out there right now?
That's a great question, Greg. I have a few. One, I would say feed your passion. Like really dig into learning as much as you can about those things that are interesting to you. And in the case of my daughter, I certainly wasn't into gaming. I'm still not into gaming, but she was. And being able to feed this passion that she had, and encourage her to continue to build these skill sets, has opened up a world of opportunity to her that she never knew existed, until she never knew she could create these games that she was playing. So for young women, I really say to find those things that excite you and that are passionate, you're passionate about, and invest in learning as much as you can about that, so that you have a unique insight and skill set that only you have. Then for parents, we have to support that. I think for me, I did not, I will tell you anyone, I did not believe there was a career path for my daughter in the industry, and certainly not in game design and game development, when she started to develop this interest. And I had to let my bias go to the side and really explore how she could use these skills and these talents that she had for creativity, for art, for computer science, and navigate ways to open up opportunities for her, like going to summer programs, etc., well before I started Black Girls Code. And then I would say also to take an opportunity to build your tribe. So find ways to tap into organizations like Black Girls Code. There are other organizations, if they are in college, like Code 2040. Those are organizations where you can find a community of like minded individuals from similar demographic backgrounds that can help you really feel, create a community in which you can actually grow and thrive. And I think having that community is such a key to being able to navigate this very difficult industry and really be able to survive, and not only survive but thrive in it.
Kimberly, I want to ask you for our final question here. Just given everything that's going on, in the context of really what is happening right now, if you had one message for the tech industry right now that you want them to take away from this, what would it be?
I would say that that's a great question. There's been so many emotions from myself as well as my team over the last week, and it's difficult at this moment to really piece it all together. But I would say, if anything, examine what you can do to create systemic change. The things that are happening around us are not. Um, they're not surprising in many ways to those of us that have been in the industry and that have really been othered in the industry, and been really, I would say, really encouraging diversity and inclusion for so many years now. What we see now is a reaction to the systemic inequities that are really embedded in our organizations. So I say we have to challenge these CEOs to step up to the plate, examine what they've done to date to create real change, not just in their companies, but in the world. There is so much potential to create change with the resources that they have. And if we can get someone to go to the moon in SpaceX, I think we can solve the diversity issue. I really do. But I want them to see that this is about not just um, making a statement, but doing something truly actionable, that even actionable to the point that it may hurt, to really create this first step in creating systemic change and addressing the systemic barriers that we see actualizing outside.
Kimberly, thank you so much. I want to encourage everybody to go to Black Girls Code, and they can participate right there. Any message you'd have for everybody out there right now who wants to help out your organization in particular?
Absolutely. Since about the beginning of April, we've taken our whole platform virtual. So we're doing workshops on a consistent basis. We're doing career events and career panels. We're really trying to reach as many students as we can, and we're reaching probably about 1,000 students a week now. So what we need is we need software developers that can actually help us come in and create these initiatives, create these workshops, so that we can reach students not just in our chapter cities, but all over the world. And this also really requires a lot of resources for us to make this navigational shift to a virtual platform. So dollars and donations that can really help us support this really, I would say, this growth, this rapid growth that we are encountering, are more than appreciated. So give your time, give your resources, and really spread the word so that we can reach as many students and help as many families as possible.
There it is. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here with us today. Really, really appreciate what you're doing, and just talking to us for a few about some different ways that the tech industry can change and help and adapt and grow with what's going on. And thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you for having me. It's been a week. It's been a lot going on, but
Yeah.
I really appreciate the opportunity to give a little bit of light and hope and encouragement so that we can navigate to the other side. So thank you.
You've done exactly that. Kimberly, right? Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really bright right here on Digital Trends Live. And again, thank you to everybody who's joining us wherever you are. Thanks for hopping in. We've got more information at digitaltrends.com about this and everything else that is going on. We're coming back here in a minute. We've got Drew Prindle joining us, so stick around back right after this with more Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Digital Trends Live, and as you saw, it's time for awesome tech you can't buy yet, where Drew Prindle joins us here every week to talk about some interesting Kickstarter campaigns that are out there. Some of them are awesome, some of them you can buy soon, but he's going to discuss all of that right now. So Drew, thank you for being here as always. I'm excited about this first one because I ride my bike, and I'm always interested in design and how things are changing in that, and this helmet looks pretty interesting. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so it's essentially a bike helmet that has headlights and brake lights, which is not a new idea. It's been done before, and this is actually the second generation of the thing, but they've made a number of pretty significant improvements that I think warrant including this thing in Awesome Tech this week. So, unlike other light up bike helmets, this one actually has it. The lights are reactive, right? So The brake lights can sense when you're slowing down and they'll automatically like blink or whatever. And then also there are turn signals. There's a little wireless remote that you can attach to your handlebars. And if you want to click right or left, it'll signal for you so you don't have to use your hands, which is pretty neat. But the thing that really sets this helmet apart is the fact that you can get MIPS technology built into it. And if you're not familiar with MIPS, it's one of two kind of new helmet technologies that is designed to more or less mitigate like rotational shear when you land and you bonk your head. And rotational shear is what causes brain damage. So it's this little slip pad inside the helmet that allows your head to like allows the helmet to rotate a little bit more when you crash, and basically has shown drastically uh, better performance in stopping brain damage when you have a crash. So that's the big thing, and it's got a bunch of really cool tech, and it's super bright, and basically eliminates the need for you to have a bunch of bike lights, strapped onto your bike and potentially be stolen. So lots of good stuff going for this thing.
That's pretty awesome, actually. I'm looking at the crowdfunding as of this moment. Yeah, it was $60,000 was the goal. They're at $880,000, so everybody kind of wants this thing. And the pledge isn't that bad, actually, to get one.
Yeah, that's
so very cool.
Apparently, the first generation cost quite a bit more, but one of the things that's happened with this one is they've figured out a lot of the production. They figured out how to make everything better and cheaper because they're producing it at scale. So, yeah, this is probably a pretty great time to get it, because typically backing a product that's in its second generation on Kickstarter means they've figured out a lot of the problems and it's probably going to ship on time. They've ironed out a lot of the kinks.
Right. Yeah, so definitely take a look at that, and we've got that up at digitaltrends.com as well. Continuing on with awesome tech you can't buy yet, let's go to the next one here, which is some kind of alarm clock. Drew, what is this thing?
It's called the Barrisseur. That's how they pronounce it in the
video. I just wanted you to say it. I didn't want to attempt to try to pronounce that thing.
Yeah, it's got a lot of vowels in it, but it's called the Barrisseur. And it's an alarm clock that wakes you up by brewing a fresh cup of coffee like right next to your head, which is the greatest idea ever. Much like the first project that we mentioned as well, this is the second generation of this thing. The first one came out about like 3 years ago. I actually checked it out at CES, and it's amazing. It's really, really well designed. But this new and improved one is even better. So they've basically made it so that you can make tea with it as well, because they're British and they were like, yeah, we probably should add tea drinkers to the list of people that we can serve with this. But yeah, pretty much what it does is you set an alarm. At the predetermined time, it will start boiling water and dripping it over your coffee, all sleek and everything. It's got a little integrated refrigerator to keep like cream cold, so that you can pour that into your coffee like cream. It's got a little stash box for you to store grounds or loose tea leaves. It's pretty much everything you would possibly need, and is the most like posh, amazing alarm clock ever.
It's like the ultimate hipster product that I'm looking at right there. But it is cool. I mean, the Barrisseur 2.0, actually. That's actually awesome, though. It does look cool. I mean, with the beaker and everything with it. Is this something that you would use?
Oh, absolutely. My only problem is I'd probably just like knock it off of my nightstand at some point. The other thing is I think they need to make two versions of this, because it's kind of built on this premise that like, oh yeah, the smell of fresh brewed coffee is going to be what wakes you up, which is not accurate. Like, I could probably sleep through a smell, but if they made one that had an integrated coffee grinder, can you imagine? That would wake you up in a hurry, just like just grinding beans right next to your head. Yeah, they need to make that for the heavy sleepers out here.
I agree. Keynote there, Drew Prindle can sleep through a smell. That was the highlight I'm taking from that. Our final thing here, speaking of that, the final product, the Aimacat. What is an Aim? Am I saying that right?
I think so. Yeah, so it is an automatic litter box, which we've had a few of these on the show before. This is probably like the third or fourth one that we've had on here. So this is not a new idea, but it's definitely a trend, I would say, at this point. And they're getting cheaper and cheaper. Like, I feel like the first one that we had on here was like close to $1,000. This one's only $229, and yeah, it pretty much eliminates the need for you to scoop cat poop out of your cat's litter box. Except this one's pretty neat. Instead of just like having an automated like a rake that kind of moves through the thing like all the other ones I've seen, this one's kind of like a weird cat tumbler. So when your cat's not in it, motion sensors detect like, oh yeah, cat's not in here anymore, and it just rotates the whole thing. And then as you can see, the kitty litter goes through it great, but the big clumps don't go through, and then they fall through a hole at the bottom, and then go into a little odor, a like filtered chamber with a little bag in it. So all you got to do is pop that out, take it out, and no scooping required.
I mean, that's pretty self-contained. I don't have a cat, but I would probably want to get one of these things if I did.
Yeah.
Do you have a cat?
I feel like now you kind of just, this is the way to go. Like, don't even waste your time with an analog, old school kitty litter box. Just don't skimp. Just go straight for these automatic ones, because they're, at this point, I'm guessing there's got to be at least like 10 of them on the market.
And this one in particular, pledged. It was $30,000 was the goal. $560,000 is what it's been back so far. So yeah, everybody I think wants an automated kitty litter machine.
Totally. I don't even have a cat, and I want one.
All right, well, there it is. Again, awesome tech you can't buy yet. We've got all the details about all these at Digital Trends. Drew scours the internet to find these amazing things that are happening, and you can check them all out right there. Drew, good to talk to you. I'll talk to you next time.
Later, Greg.
All right, Drew Prindle right here on Digital Trends Live with awesome tech you can't buy yet. Seriously, check out the site. It's great to peruse through there at Digital Trends. All right, coming up on tomorrow's show, let's talk about who we're going to be having. So I want to highlight this. We're going to be having IRL Rosie. She's going to be here for our Who's Got Game with full screen segment. So she's a voice actor, singer, songwriter, YouTube creator, all of the above, going to be here right on the show tomorrow. And we are here every single weekday. So what I'd like you to do is hit subscribe, whatever platform you're on right now. Click that button, that way you get notifications when we go live. Everything we've talked about today, we've got more details at digitaltrends.com about. You can go there, take a look at it, follow along for all the up-to-date news throughout the day. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all those places as well. We like to keep you informed, and that's what we're doing here. So I want to say thank you once again for joining us. I'm Greg Nibler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.